What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host, Josh, and we are back for another episode of our Canadian Men's National Team Abroad series, where each and every week we keep you updated on your Canucks playing abroad. This week's update will be from February 3rd till February 9th, so if you guys are excited for our Canadian Men's National Team Abroad episode, again, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub as well, and let's get into the updates now. Alright guys, our Canadian Men's National Team Abroad episode is back. This is the first one since that big, massive 9-point window. It's just an incredible time to be a fan of this sport in this country, but because of those 3 grueling games and those 9 big points we picked up, a lot of the Canadians were rested at their clubs this weekend, so there's a lot of them that just straight up didn't feature. There's some interesting stories regardless, so we have about 15 players we're going to touch on this list, starting in England with Theo Corbeanu. So Theo Corbeanu started and played 71 minutes as a right wing in a 4-3 system for MK Dons as they won 2-1 against Lincoln. Theo had 2 shots, 35 touches, and a 71% pass completion. He didn't feature in the midweek match as he was rested as MK Dons drew 1-1 against Fleetwood, but they now sit 3rd in the table with a 16-8-7 record. Really impressive there from MK Dons. It seems like it's a bit of a step to see if they can get in those 2 automatic promotion places, but they're definitely right in the mix for a potential promotion playoff, which would be a lot of fun and a really good move there for Theo. Didn't get a feature midweek, but had a decent little matchup as he can get geared towards that promotion push. Heading on over to Germany now, guys. Now, Scott Kennedy didn't feature, Alphonso Davies didn't feature, but I'm assuming a lot of you guys know this, but I just want to give you guys the update because I'm not sure if I fully touched on it right now with Alphonso Davies and the latest update on him. But the latest update on Alphonso Davies is that he could be ruled out until April. Since the issues after having COVID, it's been some scary stuff there, but they want to make sure he recovers and takes the full time to completely recover, considering that it's related to the heart. It's scary things for Alphonso Davies. We saw him in really good shape to doing live streams of his own, which is really cool to see him and his dad, but obviously it's scary things when it involves the heart. We wish him the best, but April right now seems to be the date we're going to see Alphonso Davies back in action. All right, guys, we're heading on over to France now to take a look at Jonathan David, and our man was on absolute fire for Canada, scoring 2 of the best goals you're going to see a number 9 score. But unfortunately, when he returned to Lille, some were expecting him to start, some were expecting him to maybe be rested because of the amount of minutes he put on with Canada. He did indeed start, and it was probably a match for him and everyone involved with Lille, especially Gerbic to forget. Now, David started and he played all 90 minutes, was a little bit surprising as that striker in that typical 4-4-2 system. He only had 28 touches in that entire 90. He had no shots on net as Lille lost 5-1 versus PSG. They now have a record of 8-7 on 32 points, 11th in the table still. The mediocre season, the up and down season of Lille continues. They're prepping for the Champions League match against Chelsea, but unfortunately for David, I kind of wish he would have just sat at this one and got rested instead of going the whole 90. Now, obviously you want David to play against PSG, but since that big early mistake from Gerbic, it was just a match to forget, and PSG absolutely dominated. All right, guys, we're heading on over to the Netherlands now to take a look at Brim, who had another successful week, him and Eindhoven, as once again, Brim started and he played 77 minutes. He has pretty much always been around that 75 to 80 minute mark in terms of minutes before he gets subbed off. He played this match as a dual cam in a 3-4-2-1 system, scoring a goal as Eindhoven won 4-1 to move up to 5th in the table with a 13-5-7 record, winning 4 matches in a row. They're on a roll right now, and it was a fun fact that every single time I've talked about Eindhoven on this series, I'm pretty sure every single time they've been in 8th place, just continuous 8s with draws here, the odd loss, some wins, but now they're on a roll. They're pushing up the table, and if Brim and Eindhoven can get promoted to the top flight in the Netherlands, to the Eredivisie, that would be a massive, massive step for him. Getting to that level would be very impressive, and he's flying right now with Eindhoven with another impressive week for Brim. Heading on over to Belgium now, guys, we're going to take a look at TAJON Buchanan and his side, Club Bruges. Buchanan was able to start and played 63 minutes in his match as a left wing back in a 3-4-3 system. He completed the most dribbles in the match. He had 38 touches and he had no shots as Club Bruges lost 2-1 against Ghent, and then now sit 3rd in the table with a 13-9-4 record. Now, as Buchanan, as we've kind of seeing a bit of a streak going here, he's more than likely going to feature as a wing back. I'd really like to see him a little further up the pitch, playing as a left wing, as a right wing. But it kind of seems like that left wing back role is his, whether it's a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. He's always going to be dangerous, and the one fact that we had on him, like we said, is that he had completed the most dribbles. He's going to have the ball on his foot a lot. He's going to be able to go versus players 1v1, but I still feel like to get the best out of TAJON, you're going to want him a little bit further up the pitch, as it's a bit of a frustrating match for Buchanan as well as Club Bruges, as their title push is starting to slip. Heading on over to Chile now to take a look at Cordova and Hachipato, who survived the relegation battle after that crazy story with the deducted points to get them into the promotion relegation playoff, which they won. Now they get a bounce back, first match of the season, and they got absolutely destroyed. They lost 4-0, but Cordova was able to start the match. He did play all 90 minutes as a right back in a 4-2-3-1 system. It was a bit of a frustrating one, losing 4-0 away from home for their season opener after the hype of avoiding relegation. And unfortunately now, Hachipato, after only one match, sit dead last in 16th place in the table with a 0-0-1 record. It's good to see Cordova starting. He got a ton of minutes coming from the bench at the tail end of last season. So be able to get into the starting 11 is good, but losing 4-0 on the defensive side of the game is not great. We'll have to see if Cordova is going to start in the next match. Heading on over to Greece now to take a look at Derek Cornelius and Pantelikos. Cornelius was able to start in his match. He played as a center back in a 4-2-3-1 system as Pantelikos lost 1-0. With that loss, they sit with a 6-3-12 record. They're 10th in the table. They have now lost 3 in a row. They've been a bit of an up and down side this season, winning matches a few in a row to boost back up the table, just to lose a few in a row to start bouncing back down. But they look like they're probably going to finish in a comfortable mid-table position, but there is still the magic of the cup that's coming up, and I believe they are playing today. So I'll have to keep you guys updated that in our next episode. But it was another decent week for Derek Cornelius. Had a decent game, even though the result wasn't all there. Heading on over to Portugal now, we're taking a look at Stefan EUSTAQUIO, and every single time we've talked about him, it's been also an up and down season for the team, not exactly for Steph. Steph usually is a baller, usually puts in very, very good performances, but now he's got the move to Porto, and he didn't get the start we all wanted, but he was able to make his Porto debut. He came off the bench on the 77th minute, playing as a center mid in their usual 4-4-2 systems. Porto won 2-0 that match, and in the very few amount of time Steph was on the pitch, he definitely made an impact, having 17 touches. He got a shot, he had a 67% pass completion, and he also won every single tackle while picking up a yellow in the process on his debut, as Porto, with that victory, now sit first in the table with a 19-2-0 record, one of the most dominant records you're going to see across Europe. Very cool to see Steph be a part of it. Really hoping that he gets that start, can impress, and hopefully sneak away into that starting 11, because this is a very impressive side right now, and we're just hopefully to get a little bit more minutes out of Steph coming up. Heading on over to Scotland now, there could have been a battle of Canadians with Dundee taking off Ross County, as Jay Chapman was an unused sub for Dundee, and Harry Patton only featured 9 minutes, as Patton was subbed on in the 81st minute for Ross County as they beat Dundee 2-1 to sit 10th in the table with a 6-8-11 record. Patton starting to work his way back up to getting those minutes that he had, because he had been so good for Ross County. His brother Ben didn't feature as well, but it was a decent little result there, getting a big win over Dundee, keeping them bottom of the table while putting Ross a little bit closer to safety in the top flight. Moving up the table now, we're taking a look at Scott Arfield and Rangers. We are going to keep touching on him, especially not every single episode, but considering that this one didn't have as many Canadians because a lot of them were having breaks, we're going to talk about Scotty because he had a decent little performance, as Arfield was able to start and he played 76 minutes as a cam in a 4-2-3-1 system as Rangers beat Hearts 5-0. Arfield had a strong match. He scored a goal as well, and Rangers now sit second in the table with an 18-5-2 record, 1 point behind Celtic. They've lost their lead. Celtic are on absolute fire right now. But Arfield is playing and is performing, not that it's going to lead him to a call-up anytime soon. Moving on over to Switzerland now, we're going to take a look at Liam Millar and Basel. Really excited to see Millar get back in the action. Was really hoping he had more of a title push, but the amount of draws that Basel have picked up have really hurt that, and they've continued it once again. Miller was subbed on in the 64th minute. He's played as a left wing in a 4-3-3 system. He scored a goal to give them the 3-2 lead, but it ended up getting pegged back. They ended up drawing 3-3 to still sit second in the table with a 9-10-1 record. They find losses very hard to come from. They haven't been giving them up much, but 10 draws have definitely put a big halt on that title push. But regardless, it's good to see Miller come back in, looking sharp, looking dangerous, and getting a goal as well. Moving along to Turkey now, guys, we're going to take a look at the Besiktas boys. And as you guys probably could have figured after that 3-game grueling window where Canada picked up 9 big points, I just got to keep dropping that in here just to make sure you guys know. Atiba Hutchinson did not feature. It was expected. Larin did feature from the bench. He was subbed on in the 63rd minute. He had a decent productive in the small period of time that he was on, getting 2 shots, 89% pass completion. He only did have 13 touches though. Besiktas drew 0-0 against Antalyaspor. Besiktas still sits 7th in the table with a 10-7-7 record. It was a frustrating performance. Larin didn't have the impact he wanted from the bench. And with that, they slip up points again as they need to find a way to get some of these wins here if they're going to want to push for at least a Europa League spot, let alone try to pull off a miracle to get in the Champions League. Speaking of Antalyaspor, who frustrated Besiktas, they also frustrated Samuel Adekubi and company as Adekubi and his side took on Antalyaspor in the cup round of 16. But unfortunately, it was pretty much decided since a red card as Adekubi did start in that match. He played all 90 minutes as a left back in a 4-2-3-1 system. Hatayspor was favorites to go through. They were expected to go through, especially being the home side, but picking up that red card just before halftime definitely put a tone on this match. It was an uphill battle and they just weren't able to do it, losing 2-0, getting upset and getting knocked out of the cup in the round of 16. Tough little performance there for Adekubi as well. It was a little frustrating, but not much when you can do when you get down a man in the first half. All right, guys, we're going to end the episode out moving on to a couple transfers. Now, as you guys probably noticed, I didn't go through every single transfer, didn't talk about Ubo, didn't talk about any of those type of transfers because I already did it in another episode. So if you guys want to go to that episode, I actually rank 13 of the Canadian national team transfers and I put them if I think it was a good move, a decent move, bad move, terrible move, etc. So go check that video out and I'll go through all the big transfers and give my opinions. But there's two names I didn't put on that transfer list and we're going to go through them now. The first one being Theo Bair. Theo Bair in January got his move to St. Johnstone, joining up with fellow Canadian David Wotherspoon. It was for an undisclosed fee and he signed through the end of 2023-2024 season. I think this is an awesome move for Theo Bair, having experience now in Europe with HandCam, getting this move to Scotland, which is a league I think is going to give him an opportunity to succeed. They play with that two-striker formation as well, so that should give him a good opportunity to try to get into a starting 11, feature from the bench. So I think it's a great move all around and excited to see what he can do there. And the last transfer we're going to touch on today is Antoine Coupland making the jump from Atletico Ottawa to the top flight in Croatia in Rijeka. This is a pretty impressive move for another young, talented player coming from the CPL. We're starting to see a little bit more of this with Easton, now Coupland. It's really good to see. It is exactly what this league was meant to do, to grow these young, talented Canadians, give them a platform to move on. We gave that. Got two of them now playing in the top flight over in Croatia, top flight over in Romania. You absolutely love to see it, and it's a good little look there for the CPL. But guys, with that, we're going to bring an end to our episode of the Canadian Men's National Team Abroad series. This was a fun little one here. Like I said, a lot of the Canadians were rested, but we were able to talk about some fun stories, Steph's debut, a couple transfers, and like I just mentioned, be sure to check out the transfers episode if you haven't seen it yet. It was a fun one. And if you guys like this episode, as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care, friends.